Hey everyone, we are in this marriage evaluation series, and this week we are talking all about dating, we're talking about singleness and relationships, and so I thought it would be cool if I sat down with Rachel and talked about some of these things. Rachel's been a part of our church for 10 years now. She's been around for a long time. We've known each other through those years. We've been in groups together and teams and all things like that. So I've got to see a lot of your story and be a part of your story. But Rachel also wrote a book on singleness and on dating. So I thought that it would be really cool to be able to sit down with her to talk through some of these things and for her to share some of her story, some of her experiences with us. And I think that you're really going to enjoy it. So first and foremost, how do you think that being a Christian changes the way that we go about dating in the first place?
Well, I think it changes everything. First off, when I first, started dating, I wasn't a Christian yet. So there's like half of my life where I was dating without God and the other half dating with God. So it's night and day. So back then, when you're dating, you have your own values and you have the world to look at, your friends to look at when you're dating. But it's almost like you're just floating through life, like trying to figure it out, trying to heal from breakups and trying again over again. And it wasn't until I found God that it gave me like such a sense of like peace whenever something would go wrong in a relationship, and I could always go back to God and feel that comfort and know that like my life is in His hands. It's gonna be okay. He's gonna get me to where He needs me to be regardless.
How do you handle like a situation where your values don't match up with the person that you're dating or interested in, like as a Christian? I know that you've had that experience before.
Yeah, and it can be very disheartening. I got to a point where like that was happening quite a bit, and it's always, again, like you have to remember what your values are and go back to those because that's the most important thing. So even if, I go on a date and I find out like, the guy unfortunately doesn't believe in like celibacy, it's like disappointing, but it's such like a good thing because that person's not right for me then, and I know that right away, and I can move on very quickly from that and just forget about it.
With dating experiences and with relationships, there's disappointments that happen, and depending on how long you date, how long you spend single, it seems like, there can be more and more disappointments. So how did you deal with those disappointments, and what wisdom do you have as far as dealing with those disappointments in dating?
For me, I'll just give like a short story because
Yeah, sure.
I think that would be like the best way to kind of illustrate this. So when I was, it was when I was a believer, I was still like dating as much as I could because I'm like, well, I'm going to keep pursuing different people and try to figure out what God wants for me. So I was doing a lot of like online dating, which a lot of, people are doing. And I started talking to someone for a while, and we ended up, like, okay, we've talked for a while online, we're going to meet in person and go have dinner together. So I'm like, oh, great, like, that's exciting. So I remember, like, it was maybe like a Friday or something. I got off work, got home, was like, okay, I'm going to, like, put some makeup on, get all, like, dressed up, and meet this guy for dinner. And I think I was trying to, like, contact him through the day, but didn't hear much from him, just kind of like, okay, I know what time we're going to be meeting at. So I knew all of that. I was like, okay, it's almost 5. I'm gonna go to the restaurant and meet him there. So I got there. I'm like, I'm just gonna give him a quick call. I don't think he's here yet. I called him, didn't reach him. I'm like, oh, I'll just try again. That was weird. And then I got like, oh, this phone number is no longer connected. I'm like, oh, he blocked my phone number. And I was like sitting in the parking lot, like, okay, I guess this date isn't gonna happen. And it was such a disappointment. But I got to a point where I'm like, that person's not for me then, because God obviously doesn't want me to even meet this guy, which is like disappointing, but it's also a relief because now I don't have to waste my time on this person.
There's a lot of people like who have a hard time with singleness, and I think that's one thing too that stood out, just knowing you and reading in your book, that you found like satisfaction in singleness and you found joy, and you said singleness can be a blessing. So a lot of people don't have that mindset, and there might be people watching this who are kind of discouraged being single and they're not satisfied being single. So what is some advice that you have for those people who aren't necessarily finding that satisfaction?
Well, for me, it definitely took a long time for me to get to that point. And I think the best thing that you really need to do is to really honestly just wake up every morning and be okay with your singleness. Be like, this is okay. Like, this is where God has me right now. This is the season He has me in. It's not a mistake. I trust in God. And I'm going to stay in this season for however long that He wants me to be in, because I need to figure out why He has me here. He has me here for a reason, so I need to figure it out. And you need to like learn to embrace that thought, because it's not a mistake. And I think a lot of people, they do want to rush dating or rush relationships because they are lonely. For me, like more on a practical standpoint, I started to realize that if I throw myself into new things, or not, like I said, not to like idly wait, but actively wait for this person, you need to keep pursuing things in your life, going out there, whether that be like career, education, being with your friends, and just keep your life advancing. Don't hold back on things just because you're waiting for somebody. And then on the other side of that, like building just new friendships, being in community, being in the church. I started to do more in the church. I wanted to be more involved with teams, so I joined more teams. I, was more part of groups and leading groups, and doing all of that, meeting more people. It builds you up. It gets kind of rid of that loneliness a little bit. And if anything, you're building more friendships and more connections, and there's more of a likelihood that you could meet someone through those friendships than if you were just sitting at home by yourself.
Right.
So.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, like you still are part of so many different teams and groups and things in the church. And that is where you met your husband.
Yeah.
So me too. So just,
Just
FYI,
say it.
if you want to find a husband, find a wife, church is a really good place from experience. But I think that's such good advice, to actively wait, not idly wait, but to be part of church, to be learning new things, doing new things, part of a community while you're single. And you're going to look back and look at that season, with fondness.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's so hard and painful to get through, I think that, when you get past it too, you can look back and think like, wow, that God did so much in me in that season.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't always feel like that at the time.
Yeah, I learned so much in every single date I ever went on, no matter how hurt I was after it or how ridiculous that guy was to me. They're all such learning experiences. And afterwards, after meeting Michael, and it, all of those past hurts and everything that ever happened to me in my life was completely worth it, because it brought us together. And he went through his own pain and in relationships, and everything that we ever had in dating just was completely lifted off of us when we met each other, because we learned everything we needed to learn in our season of singleness before we came together. And that was such like a testimony to God being there in both of our lives before we met.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and share some of your wisdom with us. I'm just thankful for your story and for you being willing to share these experiences with people, and I think it's really going to help a lot of people. And if you want to follow along, follow Rachel to be able to hear updates about when her book is going to come out. It's going to be coming out this summer, so definitely follow her on Instagram. Keep up with her. It's RD Hince on Instagram. So definitely follow her and get her book when it comes out, because I've read it and it's really good. So you need to. Thank you so much.
Thanks.